You have read the books, you have done the journaling, you have named the pattern, maybe even named it out loud to a therapist or a friend, and yet somehow here you are again in the same loop. Tonight, we're talking about that gap and the space between insight and transformation and what might actually be living inside it. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your Sayan, as most of you would know, and today I'm joined by Afolabi Aduroja, a man who has spent more than 2 decades sitting quietly with people the world had given up on. People who had tried every treatment, every prayer, every framework, and were still bound by something that no one had been able to name for them. So I invite you to join me on this conversation where we just wouldn't be talking about quick fixes or recycled mindset advice, but going somewhere deeper altogether into why so many self-aware people still feel stuck. So, Avolabi, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you here, and actually, I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Yes, thank you for your. My name is Afolabi Aduroja. I was born in Nigeria, West Africa, Nigeria, and my encounter so far was so great because I'm just like you, that I'm lost in the world before God found me in a very unique way, and that is so strange and so surprising. This is about 23 to 24 years ago, June 6, 2002. So along the line, I'll be able to understand a lot of mystery of the world and how people can come out from whatever grievances or whatever thing they are going through. And I'm here to share my experience and to teach and also to explain so that people can be healed from whatever thing they are going through. So
Wow. I mean, yeah, that is a kind of lived experience I think is required in the room. So, Afolabi, welcome again, once again, to the show. And a little disclaimer for all the listeners who have joined in right now. Some statements will reflect personal belief and experiences and are presented as individual views and not medical advice. Listeners should consult qualified professionals for medical conditions. So, with that being said, Afolabi, before we get into the framework, I want to start with something simple because after all the years of sitting with people in their stuckness, what's the moment that usually surprises you the most about what they're really, really carrying?
well, actually, if you are not in somebody's shoe, you will not understand what people are going through. So when you are in somebody's shoe, right, in respect of whatever things people are going through, you understand. You will not be judgmental. You will not be like trying to prove them wrong because what you never experience, you can understand the limitations. But the grace of God, as I've said earlier on, before I stay in in the United States of America, I live way back in Africa. So definitely you should understand African is third world country. So I understand more better about struggles in Africa. So I would never judge anyone in respect of what they are going through. It's only to look for a solution and a way out. That's that's what it's all about. It's not judgment.
That's true. And I think, that is ideally how it should be. So I think that is really an important reminder of Lavi, and I really appreciate the way that you framed it. So I want to ask you, you have named something I think a lot of people quietly experience but don't have the language. So self-aware people who still feel stuck. So why do you think inside or even deep inside at sometimes doesn't always translate into something transformational, something that has an output?
First and foremost, there's one thing people should understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's what they call a root. There's always a foundation. Every human being, every human race have foundations. And this foundation is where we always make mistakes. And we can trace our foundation from Genesis, when we talk about Adam's error, Adam and Eve. Actually, some people don't even believe about that because I think it's there in the Bible and it's also there in the Quran. But there are some particular, they don't believe that. But whether we like it or not, we human beings, we have 4 characteristics. And that's where we all miss it. We have soul and the spirit. That is angelic being. And we have flesh and blood. That is what comes from our bloodline. in respect of whatever thing that we are going through in the world. These 4 characteristics determine our position in the world. Whether you are India, China, Indonesia, America, Nigeria, Africa, Ghana, just name it. All these 4 characteristics will speak about your existence in the world. So where people get it all wrong and are confused is that because flesh and blood does not understand the language of soul and spirit. And, it's just something that's very deep. I'm not going to go too deep unless you want me to go too deep. But there's one thing people find very difficult to understand. The creations, our creator that created us in the first place, before God warned Adam, do not eat the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Because he knew once they eat that fruit, that means they have choice to decide what they want to do. In my mind, in your mind, you have the knowledge of good and evil. That means free will. And because we ate the food, with the fruit, every human creations have Adamic seed in nature for us to decide the kind of life we want to live. And because of this, a lot of people decide to live different types of life. And sometimes all these things bring different kinds of constitutions. That's why we have multiple religions. And that religions determine to subdue us to the authority. The reason why God do not want us to eat the fruit in the first place is because God doesn't want us to be subdued to a dominion. God create a human race so that we can have a dominion. But when we eat that fruit, we are now subjected to a dominion by who? By terrestrial being. And we want to mention terrestrial being, talk of Lucifer, which is satanic, talk of demons, and talk of all different types of idols and gods in the world. That means we have to submit to their authority. They are the one controlling us. Human beings don't have access to control God. That means our angelic in nature is being compromised. So we are carnally minded. That means we only understand through brain and flesh. But when something is going wrong and we are disturbed, we have to look for a priest. That means somebody that can go spiritually because of our lost glory in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I think that's really, I would say, wise. And I think that's relatable for me because I think we humans are indeed driven by so many of things, including greed, including, you know, chasing things that maybe we were not initially programmed to, but we, you know, you take these things from the society as we go. So I think the groundedness that you brought to this previous question, it's really important. So I think that's a kind and a very human answer because I think hope itself can become exhausting after a while, right? And restoring even a small amount of it in some way, I think is a huge factor, right? The work pretty much itself. So I want to ask you this, Afolabi, on behalf of all the listeners listening to this right now, all right, who feels that they have tried everything, um, every been to, I mean, a lot of therapists as well, tried every practice or framework and is still sitting with the quiet question of whether real change is even possible for them. So what's the first place that you would want them to really look?
First and foremost, when people are confused and lost in the world, understanding that why am I going through all this? I'm good, I'm handsome, I'm beautiful, I'm pretty, I'm hardworking, I'm brilliant, and something is not working for me. We need to first of all go to our root. Our root is our bloodline, which is our DNA. And before we come to this world, there's what they call judgment. That is a spiritual literary systems that determine where our soul and spirit is going. So we don't just come into a family for no reason. We come into a family for a reason and a purpose. Let me fast forward my explanations. As I've said earlier on, Genesis, which is in the Bible, although it's not everybody that believe in the Bible, but yet I'm still going to use that as my analysis. We talk about Adam, that means the first man that was created, generated by God, and his warning, and which he failed through his wife. There's what they call knowledge of good and evil. That means knowledge of good and evil, when it grows, if you follow the knowledge of evil, we have different types of entity that will train you, help you, equip you, so that you can use that for destructions. Hate, greed, envy, name all these things. But as we are doing that and you are using it, there's a record. And you have to pay for all your crime. Knowledge of good is something that sometimes is always very hard, but the time it depends on you and your belief. And now, to make it more clearer, soul and spirit never die, because soul and spirit is a spirit. But what we don't understand is that we can't live and we can't stay in this world without soul and the spirit. Flesh and blood is just a transportation for us to be a human being in this world. So your soul and the spirit and your flesh and blood is just like a phone that needs a SIM card. You understand me? Right? So that means flesh and blood go through something so that they can be, authorized to stay legally on earth. So if the soul and spirit is compromised and is judged, it's going to affect the flesh and blood, which is our bloodline. And the judgment is what most of the people do not understand. And because the characteristics of demons, legion spirits, and people of health that we today don't understand is that they look to your forehead and understand your status. Your status determines your way of life. So what I'm going to advise people today to understand is that I'm a Christian, so I'm going to talk in the biblical way, which, it's just, if you go to Isaiah 9, verse 6, there's one thing that is written there, that is prophet. Prophet was born even when Jesus Christ came to this world. See, for unto us a child is born, unto us is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. I want you to try as much as possible to hold that. And I proceed further. Isaiah 9, verse 7. Of this increase of this government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of years. Then they talk about David trying to tell us where in the world that thing will come to an establishment. So whoever is listening to me in the world, is that these characteristics, people find it very difficult to understand. People ask me, I'm an Hindu, I'm a Buddhist, they don't teach me this, I don't understand this, I don't understand what you are talking about. This is not my upbringing, I was not brought up this way. Don't worry, that's cool, that's fine. I'm not trying to judge you. I'm not trying to say cool. But there's one thing I want you to understand is that our God, which is Almighty God, because everybody serves the same God, right? In different way. You have to, first of all, know how you yourself works. Are you attracted to evil? Are you attracted to good? This thing justify what is going to, help you to discover yourself.
Wow, that's a very broad answer, and I love that how you started at looking at yourself and maybe sitting down and looking for answers. And I think just to add, I would want to say real change starts when you are desperate to change. Okay, and I'm going to say this again: real change starts when you're desperate to change. How bad do you want yourself to change, for good, for bad, whatever your objectives are. It might be subjective, but ultimately, it's that hunger for change that I.
Can I please can I please tell me, let me just give you a secret of the world.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to listen? Now, assuming somebody was his judge and they find himself in a prison,
Hmm.
and then the system of the prison is is programmed. That means they have laws in the prison systems, and uh you are so intense that you want to outsmart prison law. Is it possible?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible?
I would say. I would say no.
Yes. If you want change, is it by trying to break the prison or trying to humble yourself and then look for a way out? What are you going to choose?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I did not quite catch that.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that we that come to this world, we don't just come to this world because of our own free will. We are born to this world based on the judgment they give to soul and the spirit. And that determines the kind of body that we are going inside. The body is more like a system of a prison.
Oh, I see the
Yeah.
I see the analogy. Yeah.
So now, if the system they give to your body, right, does not suit you, and you are in that system, now you can outsmart your body. Like now, that means a judiciary system, which is a judge you that because of what they judge about your soul and the spirit, this is where you belong. And you get there, you want to struggle because in that system, they have their own constitutions that you have to follow and abide. Let me try to explain better for my explanation. Poverty is a structure given to soul and the spirit, and that's why some people are born into poverty. Sickness is a structure built for soul and the spirit, and that's why some people are going through different kind of illness. Wealth is a structure built for soul and the spirit. That's why some people are born into a wealthy home, right? It's a characteristic of what they send to your DNA, which is your bloodline. Not understanding that a soul and a spirit and the flesh and blood is chained into something which you need God to explain to you. That means sometimes your flesh and blood is using your brain to determine why it does not understand soul and the spirit, why you are stuck, because your soul and the spirit is the language of the spirit, is the language of all the thing that is happening to your life. Most of the thing that's happening to our life is happening to your soul and the spirit. The manifestation of all these things is what our physical body is facing. And that is the reason why when people are going through something which is beyond their own understanding, they want to talk to priests. India have a lot of priests. Hindus, there are thousands of priests. And before people can go there, it's just that they know something is not right and they want the solutions. So what I'm just trying to explain to you is that soul and the spirit enter flesh and blood. And when flesh and blood is confused and it try all its way of surviving, then it needs a guideline. And that's why you see people, they go to meet priest. Do you understand what I mean by priest?
Yeah, I understand this analogy. I think, the insight that we're talking about, I think this could be a really beautiful starting point for so many listeners. But I think the transformation that we're really, really looking for tends to live one layer deeper than the layer that we have been working on. And the example that you gave about the prison, I think that really resonated with me. And I think finding that deeper layer is, I would say, rarely fast, but it's almost, I mean, always possible. So that is what I would want my listeners to take away from this conversation, because Afolabi, I think this has really been a very insightful and a conversation filled with wisdom. So I would love to ask you, before we close this, I would love for listeners to be able to find you and connect with you, connect with your work. So where's the best place for them to reach out to you at?
They can go to Win Option Ministry in my YouTube, or Afolabi Aduroja on Facebook, or Aduroja Afolabi on Facebook. That's where they can get the word of wisdom and knowledge, so that we can be able to start from there.
Great, great. And please keep on sharing this knowledge, Afolabi, because I think in this world there are more than ever requirement or need of people wanting to have this kind of lived wisdom that only comes from lived experience. So folks, with that, we hit today's minute mark on this episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. So if something that Afolabi said today reached the part of you that has been quietly trying to know or figure out your own patterns, just don't push it down. Sit with it, and the fact that you can still feel that kind of tiredness is part of you that hasn't given up. I think that's the part worth listening to. So this has been Cyan on the Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Take care of your mind, folks. Look honestly underneath your patterns, and please do search for that change. And I'll see you in the next episode real soon.